Yes, Mishnas Abrocha, Vatzlocha. Tremendous Chef Simcha.
Amen. Find the shidduch.
Want to discuss today the issue of machine matzah and other few issues that have to do with matzah. So, machine matzahs debuted in 1858.
We're in Germany?
Well, they debuted in Germany a little earlier, and what happened was when it debuted in Eastern Europe, it was immediately erupted like a volcano. It was back and forth about the kashrus of these matzahs. Oh, you're already shirt circuiting the whole sugya. Okay. There were two parts of the sugya, and it quickly took a very personal tone. The sugya started with a halachic sugya. It was a question. In 1858, on the one hand, there was Reb Shlomo Kluger, who said that these matzahs were not kosher, and then the other hand, there was the Rav of Lvov, Reb Shol, the Shoel Umeshiv, Reb Shol Yosef Nottenson, who held that they're not only they're kosher but they're mehudim. Adar, you have okay. You're raising the Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, and it's a good one to talk about because it goes in and it really goes to the heart of the first and second generation of poskim that spoke about the machine matzah. The first generation, like I mentioned, it was a machloikis, and in the back of the booklets that I have here, I have one page of a booklet called Maidoa, which is from Reb Shlomo Kluger, Maidoa Beis Yisrael, 25 pages talking about how terrible the matzahs are. And then there was a counter, kuntres, double the size, 50 pages, Bittul Maidoa, from the Shoel Umeshiv. And all of a sudden, the things start becoming very personal. He says, he writes in the Akdom of the Sefer, Nena Shol, because they were Machadefim, Megadefim, and he didn't stick up for his covet. So he says, I'm not going to make that same mistake that Shaul HaMelech did. In the Kuntas, apparently it's a story with a get that he said is postel, and other Rabbanim were upset with him. And he says, but it's not true. I was right. I have a tshuva from the Lubavitcher Rebbe that's a machtzedek, proving that I'm right. It's funny, but I think that the machtzedek was younger than him. So like what started as a shaklavataya and alocha very quickly took a personal tone. It was eventually it took a mamash a political tone when in Yerushalayim about 50 years later. In about 1906, there was a Yid in Yerushalayim that opened up a matzah bakery, and this will go in a minute to Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. He opened up a matzah bakery in Yerushalayim in Tafresh Aleph, 1840. They established the bezin of the Prussian. But still, then it was all the Sfardim. When Yerushalayim was all the Sfardim, and they established the bezin of Prussian, which was mostly why were they called Prussian, by the way? Because a lot of them, they were very devout. They would sit and learn the Beis Medrash, Shabbos l'Shabbos. They wouldn't come home only for Shabbos. Wow. And it was unbelievable. So these people established the bezin. The head of the bezin was Reb Shmuel Salanter. At that time,
followers of the Vilna Gaon?
Yeah, most of the followers of the Vilna Gaon, because you see the Chassidim mostly when Talmidei Baal Shem Tov, who these people all went up to Eretz Yisrael about 75 years earlier or 50 years earlier. But the establishment of a bezin that started with Shmuel Salanter was in 1840. So there was the Lelev Rebbe David Biderman, who said, huh? So Biderman bothered him a lot. He said, this is not fair. that we're having the Talmidei Agra running the town. When it was the Sfardim, it was neutral, but now it's we don't like that. So he made a counter Bezdin. Who did he put to be the Av Bezdin? The Av Bezdin was the Toras Chesed. The Toras Chesed was a going awesome. Shnei Zalman Fratkin. Shnei Zalman Fratkin. It was a Chosed and a Talmud of the Tzemach Tzedek. It was a Rav of Lublin. And then Leziknusa, he moved to Yerushalayim. If you go today in the big Har HaZeisim, the big Lubavitch Chelka, there's a huge Lubavitch Chelka in the Har HaZeisim. It's huge, huge, huge. When they built Har Choma, so Lubavitch sold they have so much land, a tremendous amount of land, the Lubavitch Chevra Kadisha in Har HaZeisim, that they sold their land to build Har Choma, if you remember the politics around Har Choma. So that's not. It was so much. They had so much land. They sold it to a developer to make houses there. And at the time, Benjamin Netanyahu gave permission for it, and the Arabs. Oh, there was this was 20 years ago. It was anyway in the center. It's a neighbor in Yerushalayim. I don't know Yerushalayim like Shuka Mechuzah, like Shmuel, which Nehidin Meshvilan de Mechuzah. It's somewhere. It's somewhere in Yerushalayim. So, yeah, in the center of the Lubavitch Chelka is the Toras Chesed. Toras Chesed was the first Abbezin of later. This is the later. There were other G'dolei Olam that were standing at the head of this bezin. And the year Tov Reish Samach Vav 1906, there was they opened in Yerushalayim a bakery, a Machine Matzah. Oh, all of a sudden, for the next 2 years, the walls of Meir Shorim were held up with the pashvilm for one side or the other. Very quickly, it took a tone again, and then all of a sudden, besides politics, it became Chassidim Misnagdim. What happened was that the Bezna, the Prushim, said that it's kosher, and Shmuel Salanta personally said that he thinks that it's the best matzah. And then the bezin of Chassidim, they the opposite. So very quickly turned into Pashkvilim. There's a person that it's funny. This guy that wrote a book. I bought his book recently. I forget his name. He's a Chredin, writer. He has the biggest collection of Pashkvilim from Yerushalayim for 150 years. Like notes that they hang up, like posters all over Yerushalayim. Political posters, halacha posters, Maidoa, Bittul Maidoa, Maidoa against a Maidoa. Huh? Yeah. He has the biggest collection. Oh, Benjamin Kluger.
Can he sell it on eBay?
For the right price. Anyway. That's and what happened was the Chassidim had letters from the Rogatchover, the Minchas Loza, and the Marsham Berjan. The Marsham was one of the biggest poiskim. Marsham wrote. If you look at the Masham has this Charles Chuvitz, says nine volumes. He wrote the Guzman, like unbelievable, like 3,000 Chuvas. Wow. The Masham. So here is all. I put a note. So they wrote that the Masham. There's a letter from the Masham to the Bezdin of the Chassidim Yerushalayim saying that the matzahs are not kosher. Machine matzah not kosher. The problem is that Masham there's a famous Chuvah from the Masham saying that it's very kosher. So now there's politics about who falsified what. And I just this morning I printed out, and again only one paper out of 50. The son of the Marsham tries to set the record straight, saying that it's his father did write this letter to the Rabbonim Yerushalayim, and that his father did have misgivings about the Machine Matzah, and it has to do with the tshuva that he wrote to St. Louis. There's a tshuva that he wrote, and it says, I was there when the tshuva came, and the part of the shaila was that he could hardly find in St. Louis a yid that's a shomer Shabbos.
Wow.
The shaila was written in 18. 92. We'll look it soon in the way. The Shaila to Rav Rosenfeld. It doesn't have here the date when it was. So, right. And the chilek of the Shaila was that if he's going to have a regular matzah bakery, and they're not nizir and they're not shemrei toid, it's a vesen garnish from garnish. So he said that's why my father was makel, and this is one of the points. So this now, not everyone is maskim. There's a famous tshuva in Radomsk where it was sent the children to Fetish Shlomo. One became the Rebbe, one became the Rav, and he was matir to have machine matas. And he said, "V'araya, the Masham, the Gdol HaPoskim Masham said the machine matzah kosher." There's a famous letter. There's a whole to do about this letter. There was a famous letter from the Talmud of the Avnei Neiser. I'm sorry, the Avnei Neiser himself, that he writes to the Rebbe and Adoms that how does the zvuv, the masham, he calls him a zvuv, a little fly, how can he talk against a gedolei olam like the Reb Shlomo Kluger? And there's a famous saying that the Chabina Rav loved the masham, and he said, I knew this fly. It wasn't stam a fly in the wall. Before he wrote his first tshuva, he learned the whole tour in the Beis Yosef 400 times. And he knew Shas and Poskim 400 times. And he knew Shas and Poskim pretty well. He said, I'd also like to be a fly like this. So anyway, so that's a little bit the Shlomo Zalman Auerbach Ad Soif Yoma felt that no, that the Masham really felt Lakula, and that really it's that the machine matzahs are really great. That they're muhuder and they're very even better than the hand matzah, because in the hand matzah you have human error, and you have the hands itself are warm. It could be macham in the matzah, so on and so forth. Okay, this is just an introduction. As Daniel pointed out, one of the main things about the machine matzah is the question of lishma. The better the machines got, the less shashchamich there was, and the more issue of that there is not the lishma here, because the machine cannot have lishma. The question is, what is the lishma that's required by matzahs? What does it mean lishma? The basic there's a lot of shades in the poskim here, but is the pshat when the Torah says "Ushamartem es hamatzos," guard the matzahs means that like there's two ways of looking at guarding the matzahs. One way of looking at guarding the matzahs is, the Torah wants that you personally, if you have Melech Malach Hamlochim HaKadosh Baruch Hu coming into your house, if you have President Trump coming to your house for a dinner, are you just going to call? I don't know, the shawarma joint here on the or the sushi bar?
Actually, he would like that.
He'd like that.
He doesn't like fancy food.
Oh, okay. Or you would supervise and make sure. That's one way of looking at the Shemar. The other way of looking at Shemar Matzah is no, that there is that in order that's like a chefza, like just like the tashmisha kedusha, tashmisha mitzvah, that just like you need a geder and lishma when you write a sefer Torah. So like when you're writing a sefer Torah, it's not stam because you want it to be nice for Melech Malcham Lochem HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's a geder lishma, is that the kedusha is established when a yid is writing a sefer Torah. So these are the two polar opposites of how you would view lishma. Either as a technical thing, that lishma here is to make sure that the matzahs are coming out nice. It's the night of Pesach, we're making it l'kavod the meibishn, or is it no? It's an intrinsic thing. It's the lishma is there is a moedik alumnus. The Eretz Tzvi, we once did a tshuva from the Eretz Tzvi. If you remember, the Gerer Rebbe, the Imrei Emes asked them. The Imrei Emes asked the Eretz Tzvi. The Eretz Tzvi was a Rav in Poland. He was one of the Rosh Yeshivas in the Chachmei Lublin, and there was a tshuva that the Imrei Emes asked him that he sees in all the shtiblos they daven mincha after Shkia Friday night. How you talking? And then we did that tshuva, and we already established the Alter Beshita about it. Okay, and Kanog bebeis Menachem Mendel that we daven. I'm not going back on that sugi. I'm just reminding you who the Eretz Tzvi is. That the Eretz Tzvi was a brilliant Rosh Yeshiva. He was he was like Mamish. He was the pride and joy of the Meir Shapiro. All the Gedolei Olam that came out of Yeshivas Chachmei Lublin learned by the Eretz Tzvi. So there is a
He taught there?
yeah. He was like considered like Dorosh Yeshiva of Chachma Lublin. You have to realize that Meir Shapiro,
You had to be brilliant to get into that place.
right? The Meir Shapiro, he was also the administrator. Unfortunately,
He died early.
he spent a lot of his time fundraising and putting up the building, and that's what happens when you put up, So he had the Frumer being the Rosh Yeshiva and giving shurim. I mean, his shurim was mamash was Hashem Dover in the Welt. And you see his tshuva, so this sharpness is on. So he has a chiddush on a diuk in the word in the Alter Rebbe, which has a lot to do. It's a very long tshuva, but he has two tshuvas. One is a very short tshuva, and one is a long tshuva. So I picked to make a copy of his short tshuva, and I'll talk a little bit about his long tshuva. Okay, this is all introduction. Let's get quickly inside. The pulmus saviv matzas mechoina tshuva. The Gemara says in Psachim, there's a Gemara in Chulin, and Gemara in Gittin, and we'll just give you a taste of one of the Gemaras. Shemartem as a matzah, mishtameres l'shem matzah, yotzezu sheina mishtameres l'tzamatzah, elu l'shem zevach. Rabbi Yosef, that was the Rabbi. Rabbi Yosef, Amar Karav Shivas Yom matzah teichelu, matzah nachelis l'shivas Yom, yotzezu sheina nachelis l'shivas Yom, meleyem v'layla. Tiny can say the Rabbi, Tiny can say the Rabbi Yosef. Okay, so there's a limit that has to be shmartem as a matzah. Now, there is a Rashi here. The Rashi says the shemartem as a matzahs is like this. Kol shimur. Shemartem as a matzahs. Ovid leishmir l'shem matzah. Kol shimur shat meshamar shel etach mitzvah kavel l'shem mitzvah shel matzah. Yotzes the lav mitzvah shel matzah. Ovid l'shem mitzvah shel zebach. Let's learn the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch. I'll try to go as quick as possible because the time is short, and then we'll talk. The Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch 7 Tov Nun Gimel says in Sif Yudalad. A Jew can only be yotze if these matzahs were guarded by a Jew from chametz. The Torah says you have to guard the matzahs. Now there's a machloek. V'yesh omrim l'shem. V'yesh omrim l'shem. Sorry. V'yesh omrim l'shem. Mitzvahs better teichel matzahs. V'yesh omrim l'shem mitzvahs shivas yomim matzahs teichelu. The eine shem shomer l'shem matzahs sheichlan b'zayin yimei Pesach yoytze v'chein iker. It doesn't have to be mamish specific that be'ez bedas lishmo. It doesn't have to be specific that he has the das lishmo just for the first day. Ma'u shimur zeh siftes vav. Next. Ma'u shimur zeh she'amur b'toyruk she'roi oysa kroi v'lav l'dei chimutz. When he sees that it's about to become chametzik, yishmerena, you should guard it. V'ishtadol bo shelo tachmitz. Kagon metchilas lishosa ve'elach shekvar bo lamayim v'krevel hachmitz. Once the water touches the flour and it's almost becoming chametzik, it's easy for it to become chametz. If he's the din is that as soon as the water hits the flour, it potentially could become chametz, and many Rishonim hold even less than 18 minutes. 18 minutes is it's like whoa, that's
Where's Chabad?
But
how many minutes
today, if you go to Williamsburg, I'm looking into different bakeries. This year especially, I was like, so I'm looking at specifically one bakery. There is now a very good competition in Satmar. There's very, very healthy competition in Satmar.
What happened to the regular bakery?
Wait a minute, let me finish my sentence.
Oh.
You got to hear. There's very good competition going on in Satmar. What happened was that between the two groups. So each one is trying to outdo the other one. I wrote that I'll talk a little bit about the Satmar Matzah. So I'm already going to talk now about it because the three shilas doesn't have to. What happened was there's two Rebbes in Satmar today. So the Reb Aaron discovered something which is a big problem in all the matzah bakeries. What happens is that a lot of the wheat that we get it from New Jersey. And what happens is in the tri-state area, you get rain all the time. Even Bakayitz, you get rain. It's not like in Eretz Yisrael, where there's no such thing as rain in the summer. And you never know. So what he discovered that in Arizona, there's no rain. I think it was just a brilliant thought. This kicked off the whole thing. No, that Adar, just like like it's Yalav Yova, Lo Yalav Lo Yova, just because one group said this. The Metzias is that he's right. That's just the Metzias. That so he said no, but sometimes the flash flood. So he has a mashgiach, and that's why if they see that there is they'll go to a different field, they'll go to a different neighbor, they go to a different place. It's the same. What they do here, it's a little bit of a scandal. What they do is, and I'm not going to tell me and you. I mean, we're not, it's like God kosher. Once a sheikh told me, today we stretch the glass. We stretch the glass. Yeah, we stretch the glass. We stretch the glass.
Especially the Sfaradim, Kollel, and all these.
No, because they want it the opposite. Sfaradim and also Tziddim are very makpid that it should be glat. Glat means had v'chalak.
Right, but the
So
Sfaradim,
they have a little sirch and they say,
they have a problem with the Kollel.
forget the chalev. I'm talking about the lungs. The lungs. So we stretch the glat. So they stretch the same with the wheat. What they do is, no, to be more mako. But it's not right because you're putting a sticker chalak bet Yosef, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if it's not really chalak, you shouldn't be putting a sticker chalak bet Yosef. Just say it's kosher.
What's chalak again?
Glat means the lungs are
I know what's chalak.
glat. Chalak bet Yosef. With chalak, it's smooth according to the Beis Yosef. But they stretch it. They play games. The chitim they also play a little bit of games. What happens is like this: it rains all over New Jersey. Rains. So then they come and they say, and now if the chita is 100%, it's chita monach bekad, that the chitim are already ripe, and it's as if it's sitting in a bucket. The fact that it's sitting on the stove is nothing. If it's 100% ripe, so they can't. So it rains. So it's chametz gamur. So they're constantly redefining what ripe is. Why say that the chita is ripe and it's chametz? Let's declare that this chita is not fully ripe, and therefore the rain is nothing. It's not a problem. Obviously, it has to rain for the chita to grow, right? Mm-hmm. So the a lot of times they're playing games. Me and you are never going to know. I mean, we're relying on the Rav Machshir, but like even the Rav Machshir, but the Rav Machshir has to. Besides that, I'm not going to go into that. I this year I spent a lot of time. So I wanted to maybe change a different bakery. I was looking at several bakeries, and one of the bakeries, and I'm going to talk about in a second, is at a Adam Bakery in Williamsburg, which
From Arizona?
yeah, the Arizona wheat.
Why?
So
Why
did
you pick Arizona?
Because it's nice.
They could you can go to other places, but you can go to California for the same price. So Taka, the other camp recently found that somewhere in California is even better. Was it better? It's a little bizarre. It can be better. Whatever. Sorry, in Zolzain, California. It's Nakuda. That it's like Eretz Yisrael, that in the summer it doesn't rain. So
what does that have to do with the wheat? I understand why.
What does it?
Once it gets
doesn't-
ripe, it can't be.
Once it's ripe, you're not allowed to have rain, and it's very hard to find in New Jersey that it should not be rain. Huh? Matazoi. So Elamai, you have to chop it before is to say, this rain, the chita was not yet fully grown.
Right, yeah.
It wasn't ripe. So sometimes they play games with it. Oh, so what I wanted to say, it's not just unfortunately, this also it's very difficult. The whole hechsher industry is a little bit funny because the person who wants the hechsher is paying for the hechsher. It's a little bit of a difficult situation. It's a little bit of an unfair situation, Like last night, a woman calls me, and she's in the hospital, and she says they're serving basa b'cholov.
Not my money.
No, in Manhattan, they're serving a Shabbos meal, and with that there's butter. Yeah, it's all cholov Yisrael butter with But she says the sick people they don't know. So she says, I said, why don't you talk to the chaplain? She says, I spoke to the chaplain. So he says, you know what, Rabbi, you call the chaplain. You call the chaplain. I told her I get involved. I told her I happen to know the situation in this hospital. I'm gonna call the chaplain, and the chaplain's gonna say, what's your name? You're Rabbi where? I'm a Chabad rabbi. Now Chabad, you're making trouble for me. You're hurting my parnasa. And now Chabad needs to use this chaplain in order to do what they need to do in the hospital to help people. So I said, I'm sorry, you have to call the rabbi. You are a patient in the hospital, and you're a relative of the patient. You have to call the anyway. I'm sorry, I got off on a tangent. Anyway, this is the story with the wheat. I'm going to go back to another issue with the matzah bakeries, but I just want to go back to reading the Alter Rebbe. Look back in the second paragraph where there's brackets in there. It says Tezvav. What's the shimur that the Torah says? When a person sees that it's about to become chametzik, yishmerena, he should guard it, and he should try very carefully. If a person is not going to be careful with his hands, with the kneading and making the matzah and baking it, you can't have a goy do it. Before the water touched it, if you buy a bag of flour and you don't see achshash chimutz, mutter letoichen ala pesach, geen kol kemel kabala von einem, wenn an einem Räuber schum achshash chimutz, mutter lot shmen afil matz mitzvah choshim shum kemel zeh. Go mit foolish enough, lamayim 11 is chametz kemach zikim isu misofe kemosh shizbor b'simen tov samach zayin. So it's not applying to flour today because the flour are bleached and they're processed. But in those days, that you could be making. Kol ze mikra adin, aber kvar nogu kol Yisrael lishmer achitim shel matzas mitzvah mishas tchina ve'elach. Fish ozheim reven lavadei chimus shem mekarim ma'asal amayim shaboy ma'asal be'elei chaim shamayim litchem gam shterchem rechaim shel yad v'gilus b'shor yimois shona litchen achitim koidim tchinos v'kov revim lavadei chimus. Why the Yidden Noyak to make sure to guard the matzah from when they're grinding it? Because in the olden days, how did they move the stones for hundreds of years? The grind
Donkeys?
No, through the river, because the water in the river would be moving the pedals, and the pedals would be moving the rocks that were grinding the wheat. So you're right next to water, and even if you're using donkeys. But a lot of people
sweat.
Well, not donkey sweat, but the people would wash. They would wash the chitim just like today in America. That's what they do. So therefore, lefikach tzarich Yisrael yishmer mechimetz b'shas tchina. Aval tchina atzma muteretz afil al yidei goy. The actual grinding, a goy could grind it. Going by the chaim shal yad, rak Yisrael ben das yamad al gabav metchilas atchina b'atzoif. Aval lo chere shoyte v'kotten v'odin k'shteichem en chaim shamayim lo yishmer shum chere shoyte v'kotten. El Yisrael Godel Shegi L'Chlal Mitzvahs. It has to be a Yid that came L'Chlal Mitzvahs. Okay. Let's look at the next piece. Siman Tov Samach. In this board, Siman Tov Nun Gimel. Shein Adim Yotze Dechavosa Ela B'Matzah. Sh'Yisrael Ben Das Nisasek B'Lishosa V'Richyosa V'Afiyosa. L'Shem HaPesach. That the person could only be Yotze if he did these three things L'Shem Pesach. Avlim Be'echav Masakim Alolu. If one of these is talking to Sasa Goy, a Kher Shaita Bekotten, Dina Shana Shemay Ben Abadabra Shaita and Shemabad Mashana Istamaloy, Oi Cotton, Dina Shaloi Shaloi, Vitz Saras, a film so God Lemon Ben Das Emad Al Gab of Melamed, Masirim Shesats Kul Shem Pesach, Ein of the Yotza, Lefisha Goy, Ein Shemay, because Yisrael Hamazir voice, Al Das, Atzma, Ben Miskaval Shem Pesach. וכן שויטה וקוט אין בהם דס לחבן לשם הפסח ואף אם הם בפעילה שמסכבן לשם הפסח אין כוונוסם ושבוסם כלום כי משם בהם דס. So you can't have a goy or a chere shoyte vekotten be mesasek with the matzahs. V'yesh chelkem al ze v'emrim she'im Yisrael godel ben das oim mit mashgiach aleim shaloy tetchametz ha'itza av b'shem einem miskavnim l'shem ha'pesach she'en tzorech klal she'kavonos alisha l'shem pesach el she'ashimur mechimutz malisha ve'elach l'shem pesach v'rikan Yisrael ben das oim mit aleim mashgiach ha'itza she'b'yedeyim u'mishamrim mechimutz l'shem pesach. The first opinion is that Ashba, many others, showing the second they're behind going. Second opinion is like a technical thing. What does it mean? You have to guard the matzahs to make sure that nothing, right? Yeah. So if that's the level of lishma, this is all very important when we talk soon about the machines. If that's the level of lishma that we need, it's a technical thing Lishma means that we make sure that it didn't become chametzik. According to the opinion of Reb Hai Gaon, I'm going to just jump ahead. Obviously, every machine would be good kosher v'yosher. The most the most advanced machine where a person like moves his head to the right and the machine turns on, and he moves his head to the left and the machine turns off. He doesn't even have to press a button. With kosher, and it will be lishma. The problem is that we pass in the ikar din like the first opinion, like most Rishonim, that the lishma is not a technical thing. It's not a technical thing. The lishma is an intrinsic thing. The ikar kisvar Rishonim, whatever, but the ikar is kisvar Rishonim. Okay, so let's summarize. Torah says shmart matzahs. You have to guard the matzahs. We have here a machloikis, a Rishonim. Is it a technical thing, just to make sure that water doesn't hit the flour and it becomes chametzik, or is it an intrinsic thing? Okay, now, and then the bottom, there's a very interesting two pieces from the Rebbe, but I want to read it at the end. I just want to quickly go through the booklet over here.
So according to you, there's a basic kosher in both hand-baked matzah and machine matzah because of whether or not the wheat was in New Jersey or wheat.
Oh, I went away from the New Jersey and Arizona. I'll come back to it later. I don't know why I got up on a tangent about it.
Any of these things is shiloh.
Yeah. There's a lot of shilas when it comes to matzah. It's really very engaging. It's because it's very difficult to get it right.
So you think most of the matzahs are not right?
I don't know. I'm davening that the Rebbe, there's a Pella, an old Lubavitch, old Rebbeim, we used to go and they used to grind the wheat and they used to get involved in the baking the matzahs. Only one of the Rebbes that didn't do it, our Rebbe. So I was like, Lubavitch Rebbe never came to the bakery, nothing. The only thing he would do, he would go out of his office, and there's where we go every year when we take Mayim Shalonu in the driveway where the Rebbe used to park a car. They dug a well there. The Rebbe used to go and they used to bring out the pipe. They have like a hose, like a garden hose, pull out, and the Rebbe used to take out the water. He used to sift it. The Mayim Shalonu used to do it. But otherwise, that was the only thing. That was also like a pellet to me. Why? So I always thought that because the Rebbe, wanted every moment was very precious, and he could make sure another Yid gets a shmura matzah. That's the ikar. But then I saw that there's the sicha from the Rebbe, Advar Pella. The Rebbe said that the Rogatchover never went to the matzah bakery. They asked him why. He said because if he buys the matzahs, the cheskas kashers, they're kosher. If he's going to go there, he's never going to have matzahs to eat. So, it's like. Doesn't mean that me and you shouldn't try, but I would definitely say that if a person thinks that Allah Hidurim, I this year more than other years I went to other bakeries and I'm still going to go to other bakeries, but in this bakery in Williamsburg, so they said that the Rebbe, the Satmar Rebbe, he has a son that comes. He says, for every time he visits, there's new chumras that come in. He was here last week. And they decided that at the table, that between every person, that what's it called, should be a little fan towards the matzahs. Huh? Yeah. These things are not crazy. Sometimes it's small technical things. They're all these things make sense. They're not this favorite of Eisem was a tune. The miler with the Satmar, like I said, is that there's competition and everyone is trying to outdo everyone else, and they're coming up with good things. Okay.
You mean the two Samurais, they're brothers, I think, no?
Yeah, they're brothers.
Right?
Yeah. Okay. I'm telling you, competition is very, 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 very good for business.
In general, that's the case.
And yes, and also by Kinasofrim Tarba Chochma. Kinasofrim Tarba Chochma. It's a mamash, a beautiful thing. Okay.
Good for who? Good for the consumer, you know.
No, it's good for the consumer, not because it's cheaper. They have their race is not to make it
I see
cheaper.
what you're saying.
Their race is who can make it a little more expensive, a few more hidurim. But still, the consumer is happy. The informed consumer who is looking with and is obviously davening to the Rabbanu Shalom, but is looking so.
Isn't there a sheet that what we don't know won't hurt us?
That's what I just said before about the Rogatchover. To make it cold, so the matzahs while it shouldn't get warmed up. Turn the page. Edit Tzvi. Acharonim meiru bekotem shenasa bar mitzvah toetz gemei asvira. So they said like this. I'm sorry. This is not the beginning. I'm sorry. Turn to the other side. I'm sorry. I stapled it the other way around. I'm sorry. Binyan cotton halosh matzah shmuda. I'm sorry. I just flipped the page. Shemati b'shem Reb Zanvel klepfish mevarshe. Uvde shekotn hayalosh matzah shmuda v'hoida. Okay, it happens to be this year. Someone was married. I don't remember who. When I was in the bakery, because we let children bring the matzahs from the table with the women, with the women, velge. How do you say velge? Roll. Not knead, roll. Where the women roll the matzah to the table. Wow. So to the table where they make the holes and then they they put them in the oven. So someone was ma'oder that the children shouldn't be allowed because Chereshet Lekotten and Nochli don't have a das. So it's as Goche someone was ma'oder in this, and the answer is going to be in this truth. So he says like this. Let's read it again. Shemati b'shem Reb Zanvel klepfish mevarshe v'uvde shekotten yolosh matzah shmura. The child was kneading the dough. V'hoide she'im godel chotach hateglach v'hu shasatcha godel. Kosher. Even that be the mutalatzas matzas ovas and pashu focus make it effort in gain a tegel. Kmushu who shane you have to effort. We mutalat voice in gain alisha l'shem matzas dake hila moise vaken hila poisel but shane l'shma kan shemat. Let me explain. When the women are rolling the dough in the Lubavitch matzah bakery, they have a guy standing there and he makes pieces. So this year the guy told me, "Don't worry, Rab. I'm telling you, I'm charging an extra $4 a pound, but you're getting thin matzahs." So I said, "How are you going to get thin matzahs?" The only way you're really going to get thin matzahs is there's a few ways to do it. First of all, no. Oh, she said, "I'm giving him smaller pieces." How are you giving them smaller pieces? And that's not my matzah bakery. They have a takan eitzah how they do it. Besides the fact that they have only men, and the guys know how to. But they have a trick. Other bakers have other trick. It's called a goimer. But that's not such a good trick because then the matzah is waiting. But this is a very simple technique. You see, when you have a businessman who's constantly thinking of how to make the product better, they came up with a thing like this. After they finish kneading the dough, they make the dough long, like in all matzah bakeries. And before they start breaking apart pieces, they don't break apart pieces. They have a Teflon piece designed like this that has 12 or 13 departments, and that it's and the guy goes like, and they're sharp at the edges. He takes the dough, puts it on the table, and then he takes this thing and he goes bang. All of a sudden, you have 12 pieces of dough, the uniform. Exactly the same. So now, if the guy's not going to put in enough power, then it'll be smaller. But again, they're trying to hire good guys, and they also have a trick. They pay based on how many matzahs you make, and they keep it. There's a guy who's keeping tabs on who's doing what. And then they don't hire you again. But I'm just telling you, like that's the thing. If you're constantly and what's the problem? It's very good. So, and then before 18 minutes, they wash it thoroughly. They make sure. This is part of the problem with the machine matzahs. The shaila is every part of the machine washed thoroughly every 18 minutes. And this is the biggest. The biggest problem with machine matzahs is the most silly technical, not londish, nothing. And we're going to talk about it in a minute. The Rebbe Rashab went to Vienna. It's funny that the Frierdiker Rebbe is telling the Rebbe that your Zayda was mahaded to bake machine matzahs. The whole thing, he says, like, he was a good friend of my father, but it's like funny that Rebbe right because the Rebbe wrote it himself. Lav Dafka was meant for publishing. It's beautiful that it's published. And he said that I went with my father in Vienna on Tafresh Samaches in 1908, and my father was not happy. Why? Funny, not the lumdis and he says, they didn't clean up well. He cooked at Gezen that, they did not clean well between every shift. It was schwache meises. So this, and back to Satmar Bakery, but it's not a big machine. It's nothing. It's very, they have it right there, and they haven't, and they have, and then you have to take it in order to wash it. Take it behind the Vaseline and spritz, and they haven't worked out nicely. And it's not a big machine. It's a piece this big, much like I'm showing you. And the guy takes with his hands, bang on the table, and then you have 12 uniform pieces exactly the size that they figured out that's the amount of dough to make the right thickness, the right size. So the person here was saying along this that once you made the pieces, so that theoretically this little piece, with the godel made the piece, if you threw it in the oven, it would be kosher, a kosher matzah. So the fact that the child rolled it is not going to ruin it. Okay, so let's read his truth. יש להור מסוף פיידה כמה דס woche. פליגי רבשים ורבנו בלוכה עם פויסל במחשבים, שום דאף של לבטלה. וחום עם פויסל, והלוכה כחומים. אם כן, גם בנידן דן כן. The Gemara says, the machloikis, when you bring the blood to say the behemoth is 10 amas from the mizbeach, and you're bringing the blood, that 10 amas. If the coin that's carrying the blood has the wrong machshava, does he make the korban apostle? Yes or no?
Yes.
The halacha is yes. And then the Gemara, it's back and forth because the problem the Gemara says it's only a technical thing. Theoretically, if the behemoth was shechted al yerech hamizbeach mamish, you wouldn't have to do a locher. But Chacham said it doesn't matter. Lapoil, it's a avoida. I did have used to love this. So do I have to do this? Do I have to organize my office for Pesach? People scream, it's not for Pesach. But I do. I can't get the Seder in my house before I clean up a little bit my office. I don't have such an office, but I'm just saying, I'm giving you.
He's speaking?
Huh?
The Rebbe's saying this?
No, I'm saying it. Now I'm going to get to what the Rebbe is saying. So people, this is narishkeit. It's not narishkeit. Everything a Yid does for a mitzvah, because in my mind, it's spring cleaning. All the women get it wrong. It's not true. All the women got it wrong. I'm sorry. The Blei Bitzah Baditcher gesagt, Katra, Kasha, Kara, Kratzen, Shoibben, Reiben, that's the biggest malachim that are mamlets in heaven. The Rebbe's thing was, because of the poil, I need to take the blood from here to there, that becomes an avodah. And therefore the machshava here is critical. So I'm saying, because Lapoil, here is a person in his mind, he can't start Pesach work until he organizes his desk. Because otherwise it's a gateish. Yeah. So don't tell me it's spring cleaning. No, this is a mitzvah. This is a mitzvah. It's like alochas adam la mizbeach. Okay, end of my commercial break. Melvad okay. Melvad ze nir lanis daiti beg the match hiksha min khaschino mitzvah yud of some soifa beshut erechaim simen kuf kaf katz ala poislim matzah she'ofa goy v'yisrael emed al gaba. There are those many that the pastor, like the first opinion al Rebbe, the hikshu the otaksiv velashtem esamatzas she'yeh apirish the gufa alisha boy l'shem matzah v'lo iksiv raku shemartem esamatzas the shimur yir l'shem matzah mitzvah v'im kein av the goy losh mekomokem ma Yisrael yuchel lishma l'shem matzah. That was a shaylach some soifa asked, and then it doesn't say velashtem esamatzas. It says shamartem esamatzas. So it said l'chayr Rabbi Haigon is right. What such a Lani is daiti lefi ma shekosa b'shulchan aruch harav siman tov gimel tzif tez vav ezel shleina. The Rebbe so many times said that it bothers him that why Chassidim, I'm not learning the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch Kedaboy, that sometimes with one word or two words is geoines hatzuma. So if you learn the Eretz Hatzvitake and sometimes the Avnei Neiser, you see how sometimes with a word or two in the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch, they see an unbelievable lumdus. And here is a beautiful example for this. The Alter Rebbe says, "Moshe is amar batorik shroyo yisekra v'lav leichimut shmirane v'ishtadlu b'shul tachmitz to go mit chilas lishos ve'ela shkorbo le'mayim v'krev lahachmitz and lo yimar l'sas v'bedaim b'lishos v'arichos v'fiyosa tzarich Yisrael b'nas l'sas v'sos v'sokem alolu l'shemata akan vor Hagan Hine sikelas yoda. Pun intended. Because you have to do matzahs biyadayim, and Yaakov was sikelas yoda. The Alter
No
Rebbe
gloves?
sikelas yoda. Yeah, the kivin the esek menei achimutz. Achot shel guta asokim b'chlal shemarta. V'zochel lekavonas Rashi. The Rashi I quoted before. V'shima ha'isha ask b'botza kol shah. The minimum psochim. Choyre de l'nimtzkim b'psochim. Like Shimmer. Sheyask b'botza kol shah. The isa shemal. The esek. Anybody the chimutz. V'kein kosav Rashi. The gufa esek. Afi alisha richat b'chlal shemanasher. Kavonas Rashi zal v'arav zal liyasher. Kutchach tam sefer menchas chino. The lama b'lisha v'afi yisrael alei. Loik siv l'ashkim v'afisim. Turn the page back to the original page. Dr. Shamartin. Avda lisha yedei noachrim mekomak mashim yochlis de Yisrael v'azem etarzi. The etzam alisha v'afi averich have b'chol Shamartin. Meaning to bul l'shem matzas mitzvah. K'may siv saget siv kosav lo l'shma. Shakoysi v'chav l'shma. Chnam ha'isik v'sakim lo tzorich l'chav l'shma. D'sakim lo l'chma l'shmartim ninu. Avda ksiv b'dei v'lashtem v'rachtem v'fisam es ha'matzas. The Rishon menei the binin l'shem mitzvah. I won't explain. Sorry that I wrote it so quickly. It's moidic. It's an unbelievable lumbus. He's saying like this. The Alter Rebbe said, what does it mean shmartim as matzahs? You have to guard that the matzahs don't become chametz. That's it. Now, as soon as the water hits the flour, it could become chametz. What holds it back from coming to the chametz? The asek biyadayim. So if a goy is doing the asek biyadayim,
What does that mean? And it's kneading?
yeah, if he's rolling or kneading, so he is guarding. You're not guarding. That's why he answered the Shaila, the Chassam Sofer. He said, why do the Chassidim, they're very hamahaded that only a Yid who's a Shema Torah mitzvahs and make sure not a Machal Shabbos, that he is kneading the dough and he's rolling the dough and he's putting it in the oven, but they don't care and they have a big problem with machine matzahs. But these same people are using machines to grind the wheat. There are some people that are very mahaded, they get. God, this is teretzach. I mean, all the today, even the biggest mahadrim, and that's what some say. His question was, if you're such a big mahadr, why is it that you're using a goy to grind the wheat, but you would not have the goy do kneading the dough? And afanan and then from the Chassam Sofer to ask, why is it that today we use electric machines to grind the wheat, and we would not use machine matzah? The answer the Edit Tzvi says is he says together. He says if you took a machine, you pressed a button that it should start grinding, and you're looking like this. Shmarta. You're standing here, you made sure that everything is fine and that doesn't come with chumetz. But as soon as the water hits the flour, standing like this, what do you have? A magic wand? How are you going to make the only thing that makes that this dough doesn't become chametz is when you get down and dirty, when you get your hands inside and you're moving it. Every moment you're moving it, that doesn't allow it to come lidei chimutz. But the second you get your hands off it, it could come lidei chimutz. It could come lidei. So that's why he says, that's what the Alter Rebbe says, these two words, lisha aricha v'afiyah. And then the arichas in the Alter Rebbe's lashon, based on a Rashi, is explaining why, when it comes to cutting it, when it comes to grinding it, if I stand like this, it's good enough. But when it comes to lisha aricha v'afiyah, which is kneading the dough, and what did you say? What was the other word? Rolling the dough, and then baking, it has to be dafka yid. It has to be the yadayim of a yid. That's what he says. That answers. Even if Shimon, who says that bringing the blood to the mizbeach is nothing because theoretically we could have shechted the korban right next to him. The Mekomokim Havilon Halisha Tayelas, the Balodo, Efshel Lavel de Chimitz, Moyashar Balo Esa Kaidam Afia, Vedesha Isaac Babalisha, Monim Meno Chimitz, Vesaif Saif of Bachlal Shmartim, Kamekola Sokim, or Boilish Matzah Mitzvah. Oid Yeshloden, the Yedu, the Matzah, Dak, and Nefes Bemheida Chishmayer, the Matzah Oven, Nimtza, De Lisha Sakot, and Kiriv is Gemar, Afias Matzah, Vedem Lishus, the Kirivi, Avoida. Okay, so it's the bottom line. It's a beautiful Chiddush. And it really answers the minig what we do today. Back to I'm going on a tangent, then we'll get back about the question of children. Because the children that are bringing the matzah from the table to table, they're not. Unfortunately, this is nothing. It's not guarding fakert. Today there is something called, and again, Satma Matzah bakeries, unbelievable thing, called it the Rosh Matzah. very expensive. And again, they stretch the chumrah to make it believe it. What's the idea? The idea is that the second the matzah is left alone, it could become chumatzdik even less than 18 minutes. That's the shaila. Some Rishonim hold that 18 minutes is not the ceiling; it's the floor. It's 18 minutes of a sugar become chametzik or whatever kedei chmil is to you. It's 18, 24, 20, 20. If you're working, you have 18 minutes. But if you're not working, in 1 second it could become chametz. The problem with all the bakeries are they have 1 or 2 ovens, and the matzahs are waiting on the stick for a few minutes. So that's what they call the Rosh Matzahs today. And a lot of these matzah bakeries, Beker and Satmar, they have this new thing. They call it the Rosh Matzah. They charge extra for it. That theoretically that matzah is not waiting a second. That they're putting it straight in the oven. A second.
When I was a kid, we didn't wait a second. You don't stick it.
But still, it's this bakery. So but still, it still takes. That's the one of the main problem that I see by our bakery. That's they have 1 oven also. It's a problem, and show you. It's a good oven. It's very deep. It's very deep, so they could put in, and they could also they could put 2 sticks at a side because it's built not bad. But anyway, this is that's why I think that the children bringing the matzahs is not an issue. There's no point to now. The truth is, children are small, and maybe a dough falls on the floor. Okay, so falls on the floor, so it goes in the garbage. No kid is going to pick it up or whatever. It's not. There's a few gedolim looking around, so it's fine. But anyway, that answers that child.
So once it's in the oven, it can't rise? Is that what?
Yeah, once it's in the oven, it's in the
So
oven.
how did they do in Egypt? How did the matzah come out in Egypt? How did it happen? They baked in the sun or what? They had ovens? What happened?
They had ovens, and they had ovens.
So they had no time, so they put it in the oven right away.
You're asking good questions, but when we get to the
All right.
to the Dvar Torah parts before, we'll make sure we cover that. The big thing is that, like I said, there's the lishma. The lishma, there's 2 parts in the machine matzahs in the politics. One is, does it really end up being so clean? And second is the lishma. The better the machine gets, the worse the problem is in the lishma. Now, the shaila is, where is the level of lishma? According to the Bhaigon, there's no problem. It's a technical thing. If you think it really needs to be lishma. So the thing is that the machines, this is the most important thing in Sugya, that the machines changed. Lo yarei a machine shell shloime kluger ve'asher lo meishu karei a machine shell strites matzah kayoim. They didn't. We're not even talking about electric machines. They were talking about a machine. The one guy was standing there the whole time, and one wheel was with, and there's like, and even you know what? I was a kid. We went to Williamsburg to look at the factory, the tzitzis factory. They're relying on the guy is not standing and making shazira himself with his yudayim. He has a guy. He says l'shem mitzvahs tzitzis, and he goes like this, and the other ones are spinning. We're also relying lekula. Our tzitzis is like the machine matzahs of the Shoyla Meiser. I'm not sure because every machine is a little different. Maybe I'm mistaking. Every nekuda I'm just saying there's a big difference between the first machine matzah and the machine matzahs we have today. And that's what the son of the Shoyla Meiser was saying. And I'm not. Time is very short. That in his tshuva saying that my father's original pula was on the technical issues and also on a machine where there was the person's hand was very involved, and the ones that have electricity to it is the ones that he didn't like that much because LMI to St. Louis, whatever he was making because what were the other options? They were very schwach. All the other options were very very schwach.
They have not Jewish community.
Yeah, I'm talking about 150 years ago. Yeah, talking about okay. If when you go home, you look. There's Medorla Beis Yisrael. It's very geschmack. It's a Shlomo Kluger. Funny thing is, the first argument he makes against machine matzahs, he says in every town there's Yidden that wait all year to make parnasa from being working in the bakery.
4 women.
Yeah, and you're taking away their parnasa. I think it's just cool. It's just very cool. Then he makes 3 arguments for chudu v'chudu. Then the next, this sefer Medorla Beis Yisrael has about 25 pages. I'm not a collector for him. Machayav, click. Then there's Maidoa, Bittul Maidoa, which is from the Shalom Meshiv, where he gets a little personal. He says that I'm not going to be Mochel on my COVID, and he says it's a personal thing. It was once a get I did, and some Tzedek Lubavitch was masking with me, and they have it against me. Wow, it's like it gets really hot. That's a Sefer Bittul Maidoa. And then the last thing I have here is Shrut Marsham. Again, it's 2 pages out of like 30, where his son says he tries to set this record straight that my father really was against machine matzahs. But listen, the Shlomo Zalman Auerbach didn't agree with the Mashan Sam. He said no, the Mashan had help from the machine matzahs. Again, which machines are we talking about?
Was for machine matzah.
Yeah. Okay.
But obviously, it's more
Every and also every machine that wissen was the machine. Mit da wissen welche machine. The machine matzah.
Did the German say more box matzah?
Now I want to tell you what the Lubavitch opinion is, because look at the front. Look at the Rebbe had, and I think just like we talk about the electricity, where the Rebbe's opinion was quite nuanced, and Lani's Daita, that's why the Rebbe didn't want to when the Zim lines came out, they said they had a kosher lamahadin boat. Zim Lines is a company, Israeli shipping company. That 2 weeks ago they sold themselves $4 billion to a German company. I don't understand. Every Israeli company, as soon as they are worth $1 billion, they sell it to a foreign company.
Well, it took them 80 years. It took them 80 years,
I don't know. It's also, I don't know. Whatever. I'm not a businessman. I don't know. Sorry. Huh? Oh, okay, fine. I'm just saying it's a funny thing. The Rebbe was very upset about the Zim lines because they said, I Shabbos, I was but my drasha was already too long and too late, so I didn't mention. The Rebbe said that there are people that know electrical mechanics, they don't know halacha. There are people who know halacha, don't know electrical mechanics.
He knows both.
I know both, and I happen to be an expert on boats, and I know there's no such thing as a Shomer Shabbos boat, and it's not true, and it's killed Shabbos, and you don't allowed to travel. This was a whole year that the Rebbe had, but the Rebbe
himself knew.
Yeah.
That was back in the 50s.
Yeah, it was back in the 50s. And it's funny because 2 weeks ago, this company that gave the Rebbe, the Rebbe had so much agmas nefesh from it. He said people don't understand, and it's Chil Shabbos, v'chulu v'chulu. So they were sold now. Anyway, huh? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a good thing. I'm saying that. So the Rebbe, I want to read for you 2 pieces, and this will be the end. Igris Kodesh from the Rebbe. In Imasha Shamati, the first page, Ani ubekitzer, Shibimei Melchama Rishona, in the First World War, Shem Medinas Rusa, Huglu, Alofim Bnei Yisrael. There were thousands of Yidden that ended up in Russia. Shabbos, I mentioned, that's what the Rebbe had his first kesher with the Gerer Rebbes. Because it was one of the mishpochim, the Gerer Rebbes, that ended up in the Rebbe's the for a few weeks, and they even ran away from Warsaw. And the Rebbe's, yeah. And I don't know who it was, but it was it was the brother of the MS or something, Mamish. And he stayed in their house for a few weeks or maybe a few months. And the Rebbe said it was a Shkocha Protis, and that's how I became very connected to the Gerer Rebbes. Anyway, so there was thousands of Yidden that ended up in Russia. And all of Lifnes Nedochis, Lepinas Nedochis, and his battle of Sharis Lahavit Hashmish Kedushim Epoilum Epnei Adoichek. Irgenu Botei Charoishes Tviyah Shal Yehudim, Obogam Tviyas Tzitzis B'Shvil HaGoylim. Protem Achonis Vachsherim Shnas Oz Ein Yeduim Li, Aval Kimin Shoya Zeh B'Shnas Tafresh Ein Hey Tafresh Ein Vav Berusi, Bevade Lo Yeshama Machonis Mishnam Shemamata. Kim Achonis Ke'elu Sheyesh B'M Tzitzis Yadodam Yoyse Avshe Kemuvin Shegam Behem of the Hamachonin Revazman. So the Rebbe is saying you can't. It's very hard to say. The Rebbe is saying machine to machine. He says, I know that the Chabad Rabbeim were soft on this issue. They didn't needed thousands of talaisim, and they were makel to consider these machines that it should be considered lishma. You need to have lishma on the tvi and the tzitzis. But he says doesn't nishkan raya legabe other machines. You have to know machine for machine. One more piece. Rishima Seyaman Rabbi Avram David Lavut Hinig Machine Matzah Lafi Shmura. V'chosh kibayf gazeh yeh atzad akashus yoytze. V'lo yile menuchel lefnei chag ha'pesach tomedoye. V'beis ha'ifim lekeach u'magal esavalkines u'mashgich lafi achulu v'chulu. It says Yerzeda, who was a big poet, by the way, Adar Yom, every Masada Gittin is using Rebbe Avram David's Lavut Sefer. He was a great grandfather to the Rebbe. Bishnas Tovresh Samach Gimel Roa Kvot Kedushas Admor Nishmos Eid Mafila Idei Machine BeVienna. Veloyo es Farotzen. Isvi es Rotzen Hoysa Loima Machone Gufa. Kim Vavalkenes Apirurim Chulu V'Chulu. Ela Shalavut Hoy a starke gute Freund Shel Admor ob a schwache Chosid. Al derech balabos veloy rav chasidi. Shoye chiburi shara koilel b'ksav koilel matvasos hoye balabavich. Admor, my father, shara chibur shelo sholach l'lavut shnei kutreis masoges alot. Rebbe Avram David ispol mekuntes asoges kelo shir a younger man chulu v'chulu. It's funny. Frierdiker Rebbe is telling the Rebbe about his great grandfather. That's bottom line is that it seems that the Chabad Rabbeim didn't have such a problem. If they thought that the Machine Matzah is mamish chometz gomor, it didn't seem.
They're not going to call you even from the summer.
Loyo is Svar Rotzen. He was in Vienna. What do you mean Loyo is Svar Rotzen? Yeah, it's Svar Rotzen. We're not bringing a machine like this in Lubavitch. But the bottom line is, in Tovshin Lamed Daled and Lamed Hey, that Rebbe started a big campaign to make sure every Jew has a round avodas yad matzah for the night of Seder. Now, I'm asking Balabata Shishayla, if you think that the Rebbe thought that the Machine Matzah is chometz, Hovas HaKlepotis, only for the Seder, Elamai, number one, so Elamai, no, because Yesh Elamai Shishmoichu to eat Machine Matzahs. Elamai, by night, when you're yoytz in the mitzvah, where Lishma is a big thing, and Geshmarta Masamata is a big thing, and this is Michla Dem Nusa, and this is a Deir Aisa. And the Rebbe also Kruchnis de Kenyonim, which a lot of these places also have the Kenyonim in mind. Kedusha Betahara.
What's
So
lacking? The oversight to the machine matzah? What's the difference? What's especially lacking?
so basically the machine is the two things. One is to make sure that actually that the machines get cleaned up thoroughly every 18 minutes, and the other one is the Lishma. So I think that the Lishma is the thing obviously that concerned the Rebbe more, because otherwise he would make a campaign for all 8 days. It's Madet Vastim no, yeah, I don't know, maybe. That's why I said a balabatish as well. You could say upschlag, like you said, the fasta meruba the fasta. And then the other thing is that there's a spiritual thing to it also. Takazo, if you could, my parents got into it very heavily ever since they don't have to make Pesach because they come to my house. Every year they get a little more busy. This year, yeah, it's an unbelievable budget, and he goes around and he does, and it's unbelievable thing. Huh?
Why do you try to spread it back?
Huh? Yeah. He's getting them at very good prices, very, very good prices. On average,
he doing?
On average, he's paying about $10 to $12 a pound. So,
Now, what is he doing?
what is he doing?
No, I didn't hear
He's
what-
making sure there's 40 nursing homes around the tri-state area that are having Stardom. Then he has kids going in buses, school buses to Brighton Beach the week before Pesach with papers to sell the chametz. And then also, but the box, each box has
Right.
it,
They're gonna sell. They're gonna eat the comments the whole Pesach.
Okay, I'm leaving.
No,
Right. They have official papers gonna make them come.
Okay. Okay,
they sign the comments. Yeah.
How did you do this?
I'm not gonna. I'm gonna
Collect the money.
Okay.
Okay. David Shelfen, the supposed that we get another year to keep Pesach.
And
we will have-
Sunday. You're gonna sell the Bible.
Yes, I have already the contract sitting on my desk. Tomorrow, mitzvah next week, Sunday after the shir, and from then on, after every shir, we'll be selling the comments.
Have a great week, everyone.
Huh?
Beautiful Mel Basin.
Yeah.
Hope to see you tonight, right, Sir Rebbe.
Right.
See you, Sasson. Everybody, good to see you. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone that joined us. Kosher Freilich and Pesach.